Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood podcast. We're super excited to bring this next episode with you. I've got a fellow Englishman with me in George Gallantry. How are you, George?
Very well, thanks, Ray.
Now, today we're going to be talking about sport, cricket, football, soccer, and also passion and sport. We're going to go right to the top though. Normally I'll start a little bit about your background and where you come from, but I want to start right at the top, what you're doing, because I have met you very briefly once or twice at the cricket before. And I've seen a lot of the amazing work you guys do with the Barmy Army for the cricket and fundraising. So can you explain a little bit about your role at the Barmy Army and what you do? And
yeah, sure. So we're the Brisbane Barmies. We've been kicking around for the past 8 years. We grew from just two of us, and we set up a Facebook page, and we've grown to over 1,000 Facebook members now. We are very proud to say that we've raised probably in excess of 150 grand for local Brisbane charities in the last 7 years. There's four of us that are really involved in that committee. There's Roger Hunter, he runs a golf day for us, and we're on to our 8th golf day this year. And Andrew Hale and Adam Newell are two of the other chaps that are really fundamental in our group. And so we're all about watching sport together. As you mentioned, You've joined us for that, and that can be any sport, really. England played rugby union against Australia a couple of years back, and we had 400 seats behind the goal.
Wow.
Which was a phenomenal night because we beat the Aussies as well, so that was always great. And actually, a lot of the players recognised us on Instagram, which was pretty good. We've been to a number of sporting occasions that's been held mainly in Brisbane. 8th year this year, so going well, and we've got the support of the Barmy Army back in the UK. They've been great supporters of ours. They're well aware of what we're doing, and there are chapters across Australia. So there are the Adelaide Barmies, there are the Perth Barmies, there are the Sydney Barmies, and so
it's good.
That's pretty much us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Growing up in Liverpool, I was never a fan of anything other than football, but I did really take a liking to the cricket when I first come here in 2006, and I went, I think, to that same Ashes series as you.
Yep.
And it was just a good excuse to go out and have fun, grab a beer, have food, have a bit of a sing-song. It made you really feel like you were back at home.
That's it. I mean, look, most people don't actually know anything about cricket.
No.
Certainly in our group, there's so many people that have come that have predominantly been football supporters and have just ended up, really just enjoying the banter and the day out and the singing and just having lots of fun with a group of like-minded guys. It's pretty much what we are. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to be a pure cricket fan to be part of our group.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, obviously, we said today's episode was talking about passion and sport and fundraising. The first one is passion. And it's one of the things that I found that, you can go to a state of origin game and it's great passion, but with all due respect, you don't get that same level if you go to a union game or you go to an A-League game, but then you go to the cricket, England v Australia, and it's a phenomenal.
Yeah, certainly in our group. I mean, I can't talk for the Aussies, but no, that's a bit unfair. They do have some great groups. They've got the Richies. They're great fun. We've had plenty of cross rival singing with those guys, and then there's the Gabba Stormtroopers, which are a great group of guys. They're an absolutely phenomenal group of guys run by Tony Holsnagel up in North Queensland. But you're right. There's nothing like it. The banter and the rivalry at cricket is unrivaled as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's important in sports, obviously, to maintain that passion, but also things like we'll get onto in a little bit about fundraising. But when you said there was just two of you 8 years ago, did you literally just sitting down over a beer and go, we need to grow this a bit more?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we were literally in the Pig and Whistle. It was a guy called Danny Turley who's about to celebrate his 70th birthday, and he's a die-hard sports fan on every level. West Ham United through and through, England rugby, England cricket, you name it. He's everything to do with sport. And we were just we'd actually met the guys from the Barmy Army in the UK. They were over here a year before to do a bit of a recce pre-tour for them. And we talked about doing something in Australia because obviously there's so many expats here. There's literally so many of us. So they were looking at doing something, and we thought we'd just be the sort of guinea pig, if you like, and see if we could, I don't know, get 10 members. And then, so we were sitting there in the Pig and Whistle, and we said, right, well, we'll just create a pretty basic Facebook page, and off we went, and we've grown from there. And obviously we've been very fortunate that we've had some good publicity. We've been on TV a couple of times and been on the radio and whatever. So our name is growing, and people are obviously wanting to be part of us for the support and the great days out at the cricket. But equally the charity is great. People want to help us raise money with that type of thing. So yeah.
You obviously started to grow it 8 years ago, and it's developed into, like, we know through business, like, we've probably got maybe 2,500-3,000 hardcore followers, and a lot of people go, that's not really a lot, but actually you look at people who have like 1 million fake followers compared to having 1,000 real followers. Like, to get to 1,000 is a huge achievement, because I know, like, for us to get to it with a lot of money behind it, it took us a long time to get real followers, so it must be a good feeling that you've got that many.
It is. I mean, we're obviously reasonably selective. Like, we want people to be cricket supporters or genuine sports fans. We want them to live in Brisbane. You know, we've had plenty of people apply from overseas or interstate, but we really want them to be from Brisbane, because we do like to try and have, you know, events and, you know, activities where we'll get together and we'll try and do something together.
Yeah.
You know, some guys are running the Bridge to Brisbane next week.
Amazing.
And we've had a couple of other events here and there that we've tried to organise. So we do want it to be, you know, a tighter community. You know, there are obviously plenty of people that are realistically only members with us for the cricket and the tickets, and obviously next year will be massive with it being an Ashes year.
Yeah.
You know, we could probably sell 5,000 tickets a day next Ashes, I would say. In fact, I was talking to Cricket Australia yesterday about tickets and how we're going to get our allocation, and I said to them, I think we could confidently sell 5,000 tickets per day across the 4 or 5 days, however long the Brisbane Test lasts for. So yeah, there is. It's nice to have 1,000 members. At the end of the day, obviously, like everywhere, we are probably 200 to 300 closer knit, and then even shorter than that, there's probably 50 of us that are really hardcore and are everything and real big fans and supporters. But you know, the golf day is a prime event. Roger does such a phenomenal job arranging that golf day. We would we have 144 spots, and we sell out every single year.
Wow.
We could probably Nudgy, the course that we play at, actually has 2 18-hole courses.
Yeah.
We could probably sell out both courses. They keep one of their courses for the members, obviously, but we're oversubscribed for that golf day every single year, and the number of people that are interacting with us on a daily basis is growing, so it's good.
It's good. So rolling on to fundraising now, and obviously that was when I first come across you guys, and I think you were doing a fundraiser, an auction for something, and it just constantly keeps coming up on the feed, and it's amazing to see all the work you're doing. Where did that come from, and why did you want to do fundraising, and who did you give the money to?
Yeah, good questions. Look, I mean, obviously charity is a big thing for all of us. We started off with the Martyr Little Miracles, and I'm not quite sure how that charity originally became our charity of choice. We supported them for 3 years, and our first golf day we raised just over $3,000, and then we went to $5,000 and then $7,000 with that same charity. And you know, that they were obviously early years there. We were pretty dependent on that actual day itself. And then this year in November, I'm hoping to hand over a check that starts with a 5 and a 0. So
wow.
we're looking at 50 grand for this year. And that's mainly because we kind of changed our strategy a little bit this year. We've been running raffles, as you mentioned. We've been running raffles throughout the year. So we've had a number of Premiership football teams support us. We've had unbelievable support, really, from some really random people. We've had Johnny Wilkinson that's been supportive of us, and then Eddie the Eagle Edwards has sent us a signed T-shirt as well. So some of the people that we've been in touch with this year has really been quite incredible. Ex-footballers, we've met Tony Coddy this year, we've met Les Ferdinand this year. So we've been very fortunate in the more visibility that we're getting, the more support we're receiving. This year we're supporting Richie's Rainbow. Richie's Rainbow is a charity that was created by Carl and Lisa Walsh. They emigrated over from Manchester with their young family for a better life, like we all did pretty much, and unfortunately received some terrible news that their son had a very rare sarcoma, which is a type of childhood cancer effectively. And sadly he lost his life at the age of 9, and when that happened to the Walsh family, they decided that they were going to do everything they could to help other families and and try and stop other children from dying from that terrible disease. So we've supported them for the last 2 years, and cumulatively I'd like to think that we'll get close to 100 grand across those 2 years. So we'll be pretty proud of ourselves if we can do that, because it's obviously a great cause. But we've supported a number of different charities. Sadly, one of our members actually took their own life, and so as a result that year we decided to support men's mental health charity, which is obviously a very popular choice at the moment as well. Mental health is very much in the forefront of people's minds, so we may go down that route again next year potentially. So yeah, it's been a widespread. We've done a couple with Hummingbird House and Act for Kids, very much a focus on children. I think, Roger, myself, Andrew and Adam, we've all got children. Adam's slightly older, but Roger and myself, for example, we've got very young children. So there's a focus on that sort of children factor. Yeah. But yeah, as long as they're Brisbane and local, that tends to be the sort of criteria that we look at.
That's phenomenal. It was one of the things I noticed, and I think it's like every year you tend to go with a different charity just to spread it around. And I've never ever seen that. You tend to find like a lot of businesses we integrate with, they'll support one charity forever. But I think it's such a good idea to spread it around. And
there's so many.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's so many causes. I mean, just recently we've put a post up on Facebook to our members, because we want our members to be engaged and involved in, what charity we're going to support. If they feel passionate about it, we want to hear from them. And already we've received probably 25 recommendations, and every single one of them I've looked at, and every single one of them has, brought a tear to my eye and made me think, well, I wish we could support all of them. Yeah. And potentially we might do less amounts across more charities. Yeah. We haven't really looked at that just yet, but yeah, there are so many.
I mean, we'll share it in our show notes for all of our listeners who are watching or listening. But if anyone wanted to donate or be part and donate, how would they do that?
So for this year, Richie's Rainbow is www.richiesrainbow.org.au, and you can go onto their page and make an actual donation. They have a range of merchandise on their site that you can also buy that would supports their charity as well. Yeah. Alternatively, they can look at the Brisbane Barmies on Facebook if they're wanting to do that, and contact myself directly, and we can always put them in touch with the various charities that we've supported.
Yeah, amazing. Like, one of the ideas I've been looking at for a long time is obviously reaching out to you guys and saying, how can we help you? And obviously, I think the synergies, I had a chat with my team last week and we were talking about what we could do for you guys. And I think one of our ideas we're going to put to you is maybe running indoor football weekends. You could have an over 35s and over 55s.
Might need an over 75s as part of our group.
And it could be a good way of integrating a little bit of football, and obviously all the monies that we raise from it could obviously go to your charity and can all be running your house.
That would be phenomenal. There's obviously we're a huge group of football fans as well. There's a lot of football players. Andrew Hale, one of our committee members, is playing in the over 45s final next week, I think. So, yeah, football's big on our agenda as well. So that would be fantastic. Yeah, and always a bit of fun for sure.
It is, yeah. Just as long as there's not too much fighting going on.
Well, we might need 2 referees on the pitch.
2 linesmen, a 4th official, VAR as
well. VAR definitely needed. That's for sure.
Guys, a big thank you for our first section and watching and listening in. We're just going to go to our first ad break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to George a little bit about life growing up in England and being involved in sports from a young age. We are super excited. The Professional Player Pathway book is finally here. It's just launched. You can now purchase this book. If you want to learn what it takes to make it as a professional football player, if you've got a son or daughter who's aged between 7 and 8 all the way up to 23, this has got the 7 pillars and the 7 secrets on how to make it in the Premier League, in La Liga, in the top leagues around Europe. The project that I worked on, the Premier League and the FA spent £1.6 billion to date on this project. It produced players like Lauren James of Chelsea, Jude Bellingham of Real Madrid, Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool, and many, many more. Guys, if you want to make it as a pro, the Professional Player Pathway book is the book for you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rainwood podcast. We're with my friend George Gallantry from the Brisbane Barmies, and we were talking everything about passion and sport and also talking about fundraising. Now, George, you're obviously a fellow Englishman. Where did you grow up in England? Mum, dad, siblings?
Yeah, I don't tell too many people this, Ray, let alone going out to the World Wide Web. I was actually born in Harlow in Essex.
Very good.
Which no one admits very often. But my only saving grace is that we actually lived in a village just outside Harlow. It was technically Hertfordshire, and Hertfordshire is a lot posher than Essex, let me tell you. Grew up in just a small village just outside Harlow, and pretty much lived there till I was 18, and then overseas from there. But went to school just in a small village just outside. Caught the school bus every day at the age of 4, so pretty independent from 4 years old. Probably cried a lot when my mum kicked me on the bus. And then my secondary school was actually it wasn't a private school, but it was what was called a grant maintained school. So it was allowed to spend their money however they wanted to do that, and they actually chose sport to do that. So I was no good at all sports, but played all sports. So I was not specifically good at any sport. But played all sports, so wanted to go to a sports-specific school. So we had like the best sports hall in Hertfordshire, for example. And I think even then in the mid-'80s, we were the first school to have under-soil heating on our pitches. So a couple of times, I think some national sides or some academy sides from some of the bigger football teams used our fields, because we were based just there in Bishop Stortford, which wasn't too far from, say, Tottenham and Arsenal. So a couple of their academy teams used our pitches because they had under-soil heating, which is very useful in England, as you might remember.
Yeah, when it gets
Not
cold.
so useful here in 30-degree winters, but in the UK it was necessary.
What was your favourite sport as a kid? Is there one that really sticks out that you were like, yeah, that was my sport?
Yeah, so football, obviously. Growing up as a kid in the mid-'80s, I was actually like yourself. Well, not like yourself, because you're a true Scouser. I was a fake Scouser. I grew up as a Liverpool fan in the mid-'80s, so played a lot of football. Actually, later on, I think I was about 11 or 12, I went to a Bobby Charlton soccer school in the Isle of Wight. Now, I actually only went because my friend had been chosen to go, and he was allowed to take, his parents had said he was allowed to take one buddy. So we went down to the Isle of Wight. In the first game, he got concussion and had to come off. And for some mad reason, I'm not quite sure how this eventuated, but there was no substitution or no spare players or whatever. So the coach came over and said, well, you're standing there, can you play? And I said, well, I'll play a bit, but I'm not like Paul. And I went on, played the second half, and lo and behold, at the end of the game, 2 guys came over and said, could they meet my parents? And I said, well, my parents aren't here. I'm with Paul's parents. And they were like, oh, right, well, how are your parents not here? Because all players' parents have to come. I was like, well, I'm not a player. And it turns out that they were representing Southampton.
Wow.
And had asked me to go down and have a trial with Southampton, which I did do. But in that very game, ankle got smashed into 18 different pieces.
Oh, no.
And barely played again till I was like 16, 17.
How old was that?
I was about 12. Maybe 12, 13, might have been 13. I forget. It's all a very distant memory. But yeah, so playing football, watching football, football was definitely number one sport. Yeah. For sure. Back to your original question in terms of family setup and whatever. Yeah, mum, dad, and one sister. Sister's a huge Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Bit of a tomboy growing up, and obviously as I mentioned, I was Liverpool. So she had everything Liverpool: bedspread, pillowcase, curtains, lamppost, lampshades, lamppost, you name it. And then her favourite player later on was Robbie Fowler, so she met Robbie Fowler a number of times and framed photos of him on the wall. And
yeah, it's fantastic.
So family's a bit shorter now. It's just my sister and my dad in the UK, and that's about it really. I've got some cousins in Vancouver, which is a beautiful part of the world. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So when you left school, did you, because I don't really know too much about your background, but what did you do professionally once you left school? What industry did you go into?
Uni first. So I went to university in France and Spain. So I was fortunate enough to go and live in France and Spain at a fairly early age.
Yeah.
And back on the football theme, small claim to fame is that I was again frequenting Irish pubs in Madrid, and one of the guys I got chatting to was again a Scouser. A guy by the name of Colin Pomford, his name was, and he said, playing a 5-a-side football team we could do with a player on Sunday. So I went along. It's bloody 40-degree heat, like us Poms aren't used to that, or I wasn't at the time, and couldn't run to save my life. Gave him a really rubbish pass. I mean, hospital pass in its very nature, because he didn't quite get there, and the guy almost stamped on his foot, broke his metatarsal. And at the end of the game, he was like, right, well, I'm going to need you now. I need you to drive me around. Your hospital pass. And it turns out he was actually a football agent for a number of players connected to Real Madrid. So, yeah, he looked after Steve McManaman and Jeremy and a number of different players. So I spent 7 months helping him, and I could speak fluent French by that point. So I was helping Jeremy with the contract for Real Madrid, and yeah, we got to meet Steve McManaman and his lovely wife Victoria quite a few times. So yeah, there's another little claim to fame there actually as well. So
amazing.
That was a pretty cool story. So yeah, I lived in Madrid for 2 years, lived in France for 2 years, and then after that went back to the UK and got a job selling UK manufactured products overseas, basically, because obviously I had that sort of travel bug and the language component. And I studied European law and international languages, and now I live in Australia that just speak English. So another wasted degree there, I'm sure. I spent the best part of 10 years selling UK manufactured products overseas. Got to travel all over the place. Went to probably 100 different countries throughout that 10 years. And Australia was never on the bucket list, but the Ashes popped up, and I just split up with my then partner in the UK. And I said to my company, well, we don't do anything in the Australian market. How about I go to Australia for 3 months and research the market and see what our competitors are doing. And I think I went into one shop and took the names of a couple of different manufacturers, and the rest was beaches and cricket and bars, probably in that order. And so that's my basic history. So I was involved in sales always as a commercial, and then when I came to Australia in 2007, again, first Irish pub I went in, got chatting to the barman, and the barman said, well, you should go and speak to this guy. This guy does recruitment, and there's loads of English guys that do recruitment. And so off I went with my backpack, saw a guy who recruited recruiters, and the following Monday I was celebrating that I'd been offered a job doing recruitment. Salary was woeful, like absolute pittance. I think it was like $19,000 plus super, which was horrifically bad, but it was the chance to get a 4-year visa and with a view to getting the foot in the door, and it was highly commission orientated, so that was good. So that was in Sydney. Did pretty well there actually. Got asked to move up to Brisbane in December 2007 to start a Brisbane office, and did that. So the rest is history.
So Sydney or Brisbane, which you prefer?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, Sydney was good. I was 29. I was earning good money. I had a terrible apartment, but it was in a building that had a rooftop terrace that looked over the whole harbour.
Wow.
Which was lovely. Yeah. Getting the ferry to work in the morning, ferry home at night was beautiful. But single, no children, no responsibilities. Nowadays, Brisbane's a much better city to live in. Brisbane's lovely climate. I think the people are friendlier in Brisbane. I think, probably Brisbane wins.
Yeah, I think Brisbane edges it for me. I done about 3 months when I first come to Sydney, but I'm quite funny. I accuse like the English government and advertising, the falsely advertising in Australia, because like we'd always used to see like Sydney on the TV at Christmas time, and so I just assumed Sydney was hot and sunny all year round. Yeah, and I got there in June. I'm like, what is this place? It's cold, it's wet, it's cloudy, it's depressing.
And all I moved all this way for this.
And all I kept bumping into was English people, and I'm like, nah. And then a friend of mine actually said he was dating a girl at Virgin Airlines at the time, Virgin Blue, I think they were called. Yeah. He said, "Do you want to come up for the weekend? There's a bit of a party." I said, "Yeah, let's go. We'll come up." I come up to Brisbane, and I was like, "I'm in love. Like, I love Brisbane." It was such a good spot, and it was funny. You were talking about the Real Madrid connection. I done my UEFA A licence with a guy called Michel Salgado.
Oh yeah.
And still speak with Michel. But
he played in the UK, didn't he, for Blackburn? And
yeah, he's done Blackburn, and
so he was married to the daughter of Fernando Sanz, who was the Real Madrid president for a long, long time.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even get that deep with him, but we spent probably 12 months every second weekend together in Dublin, so we done our A licence with UEFA.
And he's now got a coaching academy, I think, hasn't he?
Dubai, yeah.
Is it Dubai? Is that where he's based out of? Okay. I knew he was doing some coaching, So he was in that same era, that same team.
Yeah, that same team with
Macca, yeah. So, we got to meet Michel a couple of times. His English was always phenomenal. He probably had the best English of any guy in that team. So him and Macca became pretty good mates because he could already speak English effectively.
So you could, you obviously said you nailed French. Did you do anything with Spanish as well, or?
Yeah, obviously fluent Spanish, having lived in Spain for a couple of years, and we've just been back to Spain just recently for a family holiday, and
how do you find it going back? Do you pick up the language?
Yeah, I was a bit rusty. I've got to be honest. I was struggling for certain words, and then kicking myself when I realised what those words were. Like my 7-year-old daughter was reminding me what those words were. A bit rusty, but it's still there, just about. Getting old these days, so the memory, to remember what's there.
The only one I ever learnt was Mum and Dad used to take us every year to Spain religiously. That was our holiday every year.
It was a lot.
It was Cuatro Cerveza, por favor. That's all I ever remembered learning. And I remember walking around saying that lots. And then someone saying to me, do you know you ordered them 4 beers every time?
Yeah, I was going to say, so your Mum and Dad took you there on holiday, but you're ordering 4 beers. Dad must have liked a beer.
He loved a few beers. So it must have been a great upbringing, having that opportunity to travel and to get into Spain and to get into France and to be part of that, because that's like one of the things that we've spoke about off air a little bit. But with our program, what we do is we've got this real niche program called the Pro Player Pathway, and I discovered the gap really that was missing, that you've got like kids who are lucky enough to be at academies. So like you said you got your opportunity to go to Southampton, but unfortunately you got injured and that was the end of that.
Yeah, I don't think it was going too far anyway, but
anyway. Then you've got the other side is, the kids who are in the academies then get picked up by agents and so on. But what about the kids who really want to make it and just don't know what to do to get there? And that's what we've done with this book and this program. And it's been game-changing, because one of my biggest 2 things that I've loved to do in life is I was never good enough to make it as a pro. And I always knew at 15 and 16 I was a million miles away, a few of my mates. I mean, I'm growing up with like Stephen Gerrard, Carragher, all these boys who you knew were training 8-9 times a week, and I was training once a week, because Mum and Dad were doing 70-hour week jobs, minimum wage. They just couldn't get me to football. Yeah. So I devised the program to give kids an opportunity to teach them what it is you need to do to make it, the foundations, because we discovered that 70% of what you do outside the club actually makes up whether you're going to make it or not as a pro.
Right.
And we've done a lot of research of the Premier League into players like Beckham and why he was so good and why he made it. And it was a lot of the stuff they were doing externally from the clubs.
Yep.
And then the big thing, passion of man is like yourself, is travel. And this is one of the things that we've done with this programme, is that for the players that go on and make it, they get to travel into Europe and the UK, which is a great thing for an Aussie or an American. But also, we also then have a plan B and a plan C. So if football doesn't work out, they could get a job in football with us and through us, whether it's a physio, a sports scientist or something like that, or they can just do normal academics and go down a normal route. So that's a little bit about my passion and the reason.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I mean, the chance for any kid to go and experience a different culture, go and live in a different country is unrivaled. I mean, I think that's probably the best thing you could ever offer a kid.
Yeah.
And in that same vein, my wife and I are looking at moving to Spain potentially for a year before my daughter gets too old, because we'd like her to experience a different culture. And as I said, we were there recently, and she was, chatting to the waitresses and waiters, and it's just phenomenal to see. It just brings, incredible joy to myself to see my daughter practicing Spanish in a restaurant. And we're doing a little bit of Spanish coaching with some of her classmates at the moment, and it's phenomenal. It's great to see, and So to your credit, to give children the opportunity to go overseas, it's something that I would encourage every parent to look at, and great if the football works out, fantastic. But worst case scenario, they've had a bit of a cultural difference and the chance to go and see a different country and
how old are your little ones?
I've only got one.
Just one.
Not crazy enough to go for 2. She's 7, going on 17.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
But she'll be 8 in October. So growing up far too fast.
Yeah. We very, very lucky ourselves through the job and through work. My eldest girl's a tennis player. She's 15 now. She goes to Spain probably 5 to 6 weeks every year, and we always go with her. And I love it. I love Spain, and it's definitely a place I think I could definitely set up for 3-4 months of the year, and just to embrace the language and not order 4 beers every time I go to the bar. Guys, we're just going to go to our next ad break before we come into our final section. Just enjoy this next ad break, and we'll be back with you in a few minutes.
Would you like to make it as a professional footballer? My friend Ray Wood has written this amazing book, The Pro Player Pathway, that gives you the secret to becoming a professional.
Hey everyone, this is Raymond Woods. We're just back for the final part with George. So we've been chatting a little bit about passion, we've been chatting about sport, we've speaking a little bit about George's backgrounds as well and growing up in England. And this all culminates to about opportunities for children, but also about fundraising and charities. So one of the big things that we've done for you, George, for the Barmies, we've recently just been on a tour to the USA, and we've got a signed John Barnes jersey. So not many of the younger ones will know who John Barnes is, but I'll hand that over to you.
Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you very much indeed. I can't thank you enough for that. I may have to make a cheeky personal bid on that one. John Barnes was an absolute idol growing up.
Yeah, he was. We just done about 2 weeks in the USA, and John supported us. We had events in New York, Toronto, Chicago, Houston, and LA, and he was amazing. He was my idol growing up, as probably many other people's idols, but I grew up in Anfield. I grew up on a street called Prairie Road. My mum owned the bottle shop there, and him and John Aldridge used to come in every day and used to purchase a bottle. It's so funny now when I think about it, a bottle of Perrier water, because they thought sparkling water was healthy in the 80s. So, yeah. And when he first moved to Liverpool, he ironically lived above a dentist in like at a private apartment. And no one was meant to know, but obviously in Liverpool within 24 hours, everyone knew John Barnes lived at this. So we used to just be sat there every afternoon, every night, and then roll on 25 years later, he's on a tour with me through the US.
That's unbelievably cool. Yeah.
Amazing guy, and we asked him to do a jersey for you, and I'm going to be catching up with him again in September, and he said genuinely from his heart as well, anything for the Brisbane Barmies, give us a yell, and if you need a video, a jersey, anything you need, let us know.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. On behalf of all of us, we're very, very grateful. That's
so hopefully, incredible. We'll only raise, maybe a few $100, but it all helps, I suppose. And as I said, we'll be in contact next week, because we want to really try and see if we can kick off the way you have a golf day. We want to see if we can do a football/soccer day, and get all that pumping for you and get you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Ready to lace the boots up.
That'd be awesome. So for the rest of this year, just before we cap off and finish from this episode, what have you got on from a personal point of view, and also what have you got on from a Brisbane Barmy point of view? And you must be doing a lot of build-up work for next year. Yeah,
well, obviously next year will be massive. So on the Barmy's point of view, yeah, next year will be probably our biggest year yet. 2025, Ashes year. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be huge demand for Ashes tickets. We'll be doing our best to try and negotiate a bigger portion as they'll give us. Cricket Australia don't love us. I mean, they do love us externally, but they don't love us in the sense that they don't want us all congregated together, because obviously the noise and the support, makes it feel like an away game even for the Aussies. So they tend to try and split us up, but I'll be pushing for as large a section as we can get our hands on. And in terms of charity, obviously every year we say that it's going to be bigger and better, and we'll be doing all we can to raise as much money for whichever charity we choose. And on a personal front, well, it's it's fairly personal, I guess. I've just gone through a cancer battle in the last 12 months, and just been given the all clear recently, actually in the last couple of weeks. So that's great for me and my family.
News. Congratulations.
So I guess, thank you. Yeah. So I guess from a personal perspective, it's just back to work, because I've been a bit of a lazy bugger for the last 12 months. I have to confess that I've probably down tools a little bit. So yeah, it'll be back to work and just trying to earn us a bit of money for the next 12 months before we decide what our next venture might look like. But so that's the next 12 months for us.
So from an exercise point of view, George, you do much exercise wise? You run?
You can probably tell for those that can see. We play 5-a-side football on a Monday night. Just down at Nathan. There's some artificial pitches down there. Yeah. So we just rent a pitch on a Monday night. It's just 10 to 12 guys. We're all John Barnes wannabes. We're probably all from the John Barnes era. Every now and then we get a 19-year-old hotshot who turns up and dances around us. But it's really great actually, because the level's quite good. We've got a couple of ex-pros play. There's a guy from Scotland who played in the Scottish First Division, and there's a couple of really decent players. But we're all, as I say, we're all just old and wannabe Messies, and we just did that on a Monday night for an hour. Yeah. And actually, it's really good fun. No ref.
Yeah.
Often don't need a ref really. We're all a group of mates, and it's just a bit of fun. So we do that on a Monday night, and that's about it. And the rest of the time, I'm kept busy coaching my daughter. My daughter plays in an under-7s girls football team, which is a challenge, as you might be able to relate to. Trying to keep 4 players on the pitch at one time is a challenge. They're all plaiting each other's hair,
does she play?
Seeing their cousins across the park and running off in the middle of the match. Having a 7-8-year-old daughter, that keeps me definitely busy.
Keeps you fit.
Keeps me fit. I do a lot of coaching at the local school. The school that my daughter goes to, I coach on a Thursday and Friday morning. We do a sports program for the kids at New Farm State School, which is
amazing.
Which is good fun, and that keeps me fit as well because I tend to throw myself in and end up playing rather than reffing. So it's always good fun.
One question I've got to ask you before we finish. Actually, a mate of mine last week, we were chatting, and I said I've got you coming on, and he wants to know, and I couldn't tell him, but he said, who is it who wears the Queen Elizabeth mask at the Barmys? And then obviously it's now King Charles, I take it.
Yeah, so that
is it the same person? Or?
Yeah, it's the same person. Yeah, it's the same person. Yeah, so that is Andrew Hale, one of our main men. Slightly funny because he's I don't know, Andrew. I'm sorry that I get this wrong. He's got to be 6'6".
He's huge. I remember him at the Ashes.
So he's a 6'6", masculine, massive bloke. He looks great in a dress.
Yeah.
With his handbag and his corgi. The Prince Charles, or the King Charles, I should say, the King Charles outfit is maybe, it's a little more subdued because obviously it's not a 6'6" bloke in a dress. But yeah, no, he's been great, great fun. One of my greatest memories is the tradition is that every time the national anthem plays, he will go out and sort of salute the crowd. Yeah. And during the last Ashes, I was actually sat next to Evan, our fantastic trumpeter, and for about 4 or 5 minutes, I had him playing the national anthem non-stop. So the Queen had to keep going down, saluting everyone in 40 degrees, wearing a mask. He took the mask off and he just went, "Stop playing that." He was just, but it was great fun. It had hoots of laughter. The whole crowd was in hysterics watching that. So yeah, no, Andy's a great bloke and he does a great job as the Queen, and he'll do a great job as the King for sure.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much, George, for
joining
us. My
pleasure. Thanks very much.
We'd love to get you back on again in the future just to see how everything's going with the Barmys and see how fundraising's going, and obviously we'll be in touch off here as well to see. We'd love to help you, and you'd be one of our main sort of beneficiaries and help you raise
thanks
some
very
money
much. Thanks again for the John Barnes shirt, and thanks for everything. That's really appreciated.
Cheers, George. Cheers. So guys, a big thank you for joining me and George. As I said, we'll be back again with another episode, probably closer to the Ashes next year with George, and we'll get some great updates. If anyone's interested to donate into that amazing charity that they're raising funds for, it's all in the show notes below. A big thank you from me at the Rainwood Podcast, and we'll see you on our next episode.